Hi guys, thanks for taking the time to meet me. I'm sure you've received a copy of the comparative market analysis that I emailed through to you earlier. Just a few points in there that I would like to run through with you. This isn't an urgent matter, but it does help inform your decision on how you might like to price and list your property with us. So basically, I wanted to quickly run through 3 comparative properties close by to your home, and then we can look at whether they're going to be perfectly comparative or whether we need to make some changes and whether your property listing needs to be more reflective of them or a little bit different as well. So the first properties that we've sort of got there, we've got one on Kingaroy Street, one on Parkside Drive, and another one on Kingaroy Street as well. The price ranges of those 3 do range from $376 through to $390, but in saying that, the property at $390 does have an additional bedroom and 2 additional secure car parks. So a little bit of an older home, but at the same time it does have a few additional features that need to be considered moving forward. All of those properties are quite comparative in terms of property size, home size, but except for that one for $390, it's a little bit bigger as a property. But if you look at 3 that I have recently sold within the area, we do have one over on Haley Street, so we're getting a little bit further away from Oasis Drive with these first 2, but the third one is much closer. So 95 on Haley Street, $382,000, but it was a 4-bedroom double bathroom with 5 carports. So it's a quite large property, nowhere near as new as your build. So it's an older building but a much larger property, so it does offer a few more flexible options for the buyer in that sense. And then I've got 44 on First Avenue. That probably sold for $350 back in July. So it's not overly new, but it does sort of capture the growth that I want you to bear in mind for the third property that I've used within this analysis. It was also a 4-bedroom, 4 carport, so very similar, but has some distinct differences that we need to be aware of as well. If you look at 4 Oasis Drive, it did sell for $299,000, but it actually sold way back in late 2021. That was a property that I did sell as well. That home does actually lead us into what we want to discuss as far as the market growth within the area over the recent years. So in 2022 we had 36% growth in property market, in the home market for houses, and then we also had 3.3% growth in 2023. So that gives us a pretty solid basis that that property at 4 Oasis Drive, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-carport, very similar in size to yours, and obviously the same street. Very similar in value, and obviously that gives us a regard. So if they had 39% or 40% value on the $299, we sort of end up in the mid to high 300,000s, which obviously aligns with our estimated value. We've got between $326,000 and $415,000 for your property. If you look at that realistically, I think we want to list in the fairly high end of that range. We do need to be mindful of different marketing conditions and how that may shift. Now, you did mention when we organised the appointment, you had a couple of questions for me. Did you want to fire ahead with those? Yep. Okay, so should we advertise the property for higher than the range and estimated selling price of the property? Realistically, I think if we look at the higher end of the range that we've estimated, that's going to be very realistic. If we go too much higher, we might see extended delays on actually getting interest and prospects on your home. For the sake of $10,000 to $15,000, we might go from having many inspection requests to not having really any at all. The more inspections we have, perhaps the stronger our negotiating position as well. We may not need to discount it, whereas if we list at the higher price, we may need to discount back due to the fact we may only have 1 or 2 inspections in the time frame that you're sort of looking for. So obviously it's your final decision as to where you'd like to list the property. I'd say that if we stick within our range that we've estimated, it's a fair range and it does actually answer a lot of the questions. Did you have any more questions for me? Would the interest rates impact? Yes, they would. That's the long and the short. They would impact because it does impact on the market and the buyer market. At this point in time, it's currently a seller's game. Realistically, you name your price, someone's going to pay it. But that could shift quite drastically if the RBA does decide to change the interest rates. And realistically, I think, depending on your time frame and how you want to sell, that all does play into it as well. As for our recommendations on price, I would perhaps recommend an initial listing somewhere around the $400,000 mark. That will open up the home for more inspections and hopefully create a lot more interest. Alternatively, if you're willing to sit on it for a little while, we could look at listing it slightly higher, somewhere around that 410 mark, but something about 400 to 410,000 would be my recommendation. Awesome. Thank you for your time.